Hi there, I'm Mr. Caird, and in today's video we're asking the question, can you have a lake under the sea? For this project you're going to need table salts, a clear glass jar, a small measuring jug, food colouring, a kettle, a teaspoon, and either a pump off a hand soap dispenser or a baster to get your liquids from your jug into your clear glass jar. The first thing you're going to want to do is freshly boil a kettle and pour out 100 millilitres of water. Then, using your table salt, you're going to create a supersaturated salt solution. So we're going to pour in as much salt as we can until it can't dissolve anymore. Pour in a good amount, then give it a stir, and as you see the salt dissolve, you're keeping an eye on how much salt is left in the bottom. Don't worry about adding too much. Once you get near the ends, you might need to add a little bit more. Keep on adding until the salt doesn't dissolve any longer. We've then reached that supersaturated point where no more salt will dissolve at this temperature. There we go. You can see there's just a little bit left at the bottom there, but that's not a problem. Then we're going to take our salt solution and we're going to pour it straight into the glass jar. Don't worry if there's a little bit of salt left over in the bottom there. We've got our supersaturated solution there. Now we need to create our normal seawater. To create our normal seawater, once again, we're going to pour 100 millilitres of freshly boiled water. Then we're going to add 1 teaspoon of salt, as the brine in the brine pools is around 10 times as strong. So by adding a small amount of salt, we can simulate what the seawater would actually be like. That's fully dissolved. We're also going to add some blue food colouring for contrast. I'm going to be relatively generous with mine. Watch it work surfaces. Once you've given that a good stir, we've now got our seawater dyed blue for convenience. Next up, being very careful, using either your baster or your hand soap dispenser, draw up your seawater and then tilt your glass, and then very slowly, very gently allow your seawater to flow down the side of your glass. Someone else in a response to a previous video, on the Skittles video, used a cowpole dispenser, which is a genius way of doing it. Let's put our things to the side, and we lift up very carefully. You can see we've got our brine pool at the bottom of our sea, and if we give it a little swizzle side to side, you can see that the brine pool itself moves around. So, with the actual project out of the way, I'm going to hand over to Dr Juliette Jackson from Seadream Education, who's going to tell you a little bit more about brine pools.
Hi, my name's Dr Juliette and I'm a marine biologist. That means that I study the sea and the things that live in the sea, which is really exciting because our planet is covered with 72% of the sea. So land are these coloured parts and the sea is all the blue, hence the favourite programme Blue Planet. And the oceans are connected. Water can move between all the big main oceans. So quite often people call it one ocean on our planet. So Mr Caird has asked me to talk to you about brine pools. Brine pools that he's heard about in Mexico. So we are here, and if we were to go across the North Atlantic Ocean, we come across Mexico. And brine pools are areas of water in the ocean that are particularly salty. So we know that the seas are salty, the oceans are salty, and they're 220 times saltier than fresh water. But brine pools are even saltier, 3 to 7 times saltier than the seas around the pools. And also the water doesn't move a lot, in brine pools. They don't have currents and water movements, so it's like a pool inside the ocean of still water. So where does it come from that's in the sea? And where does the salt come from that's in the brine pools? Well, salt comes from rocks. So it comes from the seabed and it mixes in with the water. And brine pools are areas where the rocks are particularly salty and give off lots of salt. And the oceans are particularly still, so it doesn't get to move around and evaporate, and it doesn't disperse, so it just sits and gets saltier and saltier. So they're really salty areas, and salt is not good for you, and it's not good for fish or any living thing. Too much salt is deadly, it's toxic. There are some things called mussels, not like these mussels, but these mussels. Mussels live in mussel beds around these brine pools, but nothing can live inside brine pools.
So there you go. Thank you very much, Dr. Juliette, for explaining brine pools to us. I hope you enjoyed this little project. Quite a simple one to do at home. Can take a little bit of salt to get used to it. But isn't it amazing to think that hundreds of feet below the ocean surface are mini seas in themselves? So salty that hardly anything can live inside them. Absolutely amazing. Our planet is an amazing place to live. Well, that's it for this video. Thanks very much for having a look. Hope you have a go yourselves. And if you do post a little video response below in the comments. Or if you're on Facebook, go and like Mr. Ked Makes to follow for future video updates. If there are any interesting science questions you've got, why not post them on the Facebook page and we can explore them together. Always up for new ideas and new questions. Anyway, thanks again for tuning in. I've been Mr. Ked and I'll catch you in the next video.